Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 21st Michigan City Council meeting. And before we begin the meeting, I am going to read the Michigan City Code of Protocol and Ethics for City Council meetings. Section 2-55, the proceeding officer shall preserve order and decorum at council meetings and shall decide all questions of order without debate, subject to the appeal to the council. The presiding officer may entertain comments from people in attendance regarding any ordinance or resolution under consideration after each reading and prior to council comments and debate. And as I said, people can make comments regarding any ordinance or resolution. People in attendance must be allowed to comment on a topic of a legally required public hearing. The presiding officer may set reasonable limits on the length of time each person is allowed to speak on each item, but not less than 3 minutes. The presiding officer shall enforce order and rules during periods of public comment, and 3 minutes will be the time limit for folks to speak. In case of any disturbance or disorderly conduct, the presiding officer shall have the power to have the chambers cleared, and proper decorum at meetings is to act professional, respectful of all city officials, whether at the meeting or not. Foul language or directly cussing at people or making open threats is not tolerated. With that being said, I would now ask everyone to please close off or silence their electronic devices, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silent prayer. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Isla, take the roll call, please.
Mr. Beatrice?
Present.
Ms. Carnes?
Present.
Mr. Dabney?
Present.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Present.
Mr. Hamilton? Mr. Don Przepolinski?
Present.
Mr. Paul Przepolinski?
Present.
Mr. Simmons?
Present.
And Mr. Stemley?
Present.
We have 8 present and 1 absent.
And Mr. Hamilton has been excused from the meeting. He did contact me and he is out of town. The approval of the October 15th meeting minutes. Are there any corrections? Is the motion to approve?
There was something I've noticed out here. So after the adjournment, it says it was announced that the meeting was continued for consideration and approval of the 2020 budget and related salary ordinance until October 21st. And then here, it clearly says that Councilman Fitzpatrick made a motion to adjourn the meeting, second by Councilman P. Przepolinski. Councilman Fitzpatrick stated, "We are adjourning until the council can come back with more clarity on this matter." So it seems like there's 2 different things going on, and I don't remember this being discussed. So,
Ms. Nyla? Any? Okay, Mr. Myers?
Last page, the discussion ensued between President me and President Fitzpatrick.
I'm
sorry.
Start over.
About a special meeting needing to finish the agenda. So my recollection is that we had a discussion about the fact that we needed to continue and ultimately finish approving the budget, in time, in a timely fashion, and that there was going to be another meeting, which I believe everybody consented to before there was even a vote. And that the meeting was set for October 21, 2019 at 6:30 today. So the red part of the, I don't know, your document's not read.
No, it's not right.
The last sentence, you were quoting
Yeah,
Councilman Fitzpatrick, it was announced. That's my.
it was informal, and I don't think everyone was even present when that was discussed, and I think we had already voted and adjourned after that.
No, well, not according to, that's not my record, that's not the way the meeting.
Can we play back what was recorded? Go from there.
Right, what's the issue?
It says it's got two different reasons why we're adjourned. So, and I don't remember this being discussed prior to us adjourning.
You don't remember the discussion about needing a special meeting?
Yes, I do, but not prior to adjournment. No.
As soon as somebody said that.
And then it was
adjourn and there was a second.
and it was a whole vote taken.
We have to have it. No, there wasn't a vote taken at that point. I said we have to have a special meeting. Or we're gonna have to have a special meeting.
I remember that.
To do the budget.
But all of the scheduling and everything, that was until after.
The what? I'm sorry.
The scheduling of the other meeting and the discussion, that wasn't until after we had already adjourned. I don't even think everyone was here.
Oh, if so you want to put the word adjourned,
I don't remember this part.
4?
After number 4, I don't remember any of that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the way I recommend, remembering, that's why I typed it that way, but I don't vote. So,
I do remember that we were speaking and talking about dates and times and discussing about having a meeting on Monday, the 21st at 6:30 p.m. I think what maybe was in question was the time, because I mean some folks were talking about 6, but then we said no, we got to keep it at 6:30 because that's what time our regular council meetings are.
What was recorded?
Pardon?
Wasn't the meeting was recorded also, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was recorded on TV. It's recorded on tape. I guess if you're requesting that we get the exact verbiage to what goes into the minutes, I guess that's your right as a council member that we can have the minutes drawn up verbatim.
Or at least that part, so it's accurate as to what actually was discussed at the point of adjournment.
Okay, for the record, I had done the minutes. I typed them the way they were. Attorney Meyer asked me to put this in due to the salary, the DLG, and I didn't. I did what he asked me to.
right,
Thank you.
that's true. I think I just said that. Yeah,
So that
put adjourned first, it doesn't make any difference. I just, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it.
so then this is a revision of the minutes.
Well, it's a completion of the minutes are supposed to be what happened at the meeting.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily even have to be what's recorded. You can have things that occur that are not recorded. Minutes are just supposed to be a summary, they're not verbatim
Okay.
of events that transpired at the meeting of the council.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to state for the record then that I don't recall this part being discussed prior to adjournment.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Prispolinski?
So, with that being said, and my understanding, so are we looking for a motion for unanimous consent to go on with this meeting? So there's no, question about anything, whatever in the minutes, or,
No, I think he's just talking about the minutes themselves.
Yeah.
or notification? Well, okay, because in the newspaper that it did, say that there was a meeting scheduled for Monday at 6:30 p.m. on the weekend edition. So I put that out there to clarify so there's no misunderstandings for the record on to proceed or not to proceed.
Thank you, Councilman. Moving along, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the October 15th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilwoman Carnes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. And Ms. Nyla, our first ordinance on third reading this evening by title only without objection.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance or resolution for appropriations and tax rates. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. And does the author have anything that he'd like to add at this time?
As I recall, this is the spot where we started to discuss the amendment that I was bringing forward to the budget. So I think this is the best time for us to go ahead and take that into consideration now in regards to the $27,200 that we were talking about. There was a motion made, and I was trying to find the actual account numbers and didn't have the account number. I think I read 450050 or 455, something like that. And when it's actually 439090. But to start the whole thing, we actually tabled out of finance committee hearings and budget hearings to get to this point, waiting for additional information. And we had an opportunity to hear more information about the program that was under discussion tonight. Prosecutor Mr. Lake is here. He would like to give information about the item that we were discussing there.
Okay, and Mr. Myers, to ask a question, we were under, actually, the way I understand, we were under public hearing when we were discussing this. Go ahead, Mr. Myers.
You're under public comment.
Public comment. Public comment.
So the motion has been made and has been
Right.
seconded, and I think Councilman Dabney spoke, maybe somebody else on the council, and there you had accepted comments from the
Right,
audience.
exactly.
And after that was over, well, I'm not sure it was over.
Yeah, that's where we stopped.
Can't read
Yeah.
mine, but that's where you stop.
So we are under public comment for this amendment and this ordinance.
Right.
So is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this amendment or ordinance? Prosecutor Lake?
Good evening, John Lake, LaPorte County Prosecutor. And I watched, just before I came here, I watched your council meetings. So I saw what the sheriff said and what Chief Swistek said. I want to clear up, and there's, obviously you read the paper maybe and you understand what a little bit of this dynamic. This is not an ICAC unit. This is, I call it digital forensic unit. I don't control it, and that was one of the issues, is that first of all, the grant was only a 5-year grant. And next year, if this grant went forward with the county and we kept this grant, it would have been 75% would have had to come from the county, from our fund, the prosecutors, because it was under the prosecutors grant. And then in 2021, it would go away. It was a completely 100%. So looking at that was number one. But the first thing I asked for was, because this is federal grant money coming from CJI. And so, I never even got to the issue of the philosophical, do I want this unit or not? Because I couldn't even understand what the grant, whether there was compliance with the grant terms. Because the grant, the funding for 2018, the entire grant amount, the entire program was $573,000. And I think half of that was coming from already from in-kind and those type of things. So, but the next year is going to be like $197,000 have to be added to the general fund in the county to keep this program. And what it had was 5 people who were on this program, and it was only dedicated, you have to understand, it was only dedicated to child crimes, internet-based or technology-based, okay? That's how the grant was written. So we could not be going out and just doing murder cases unless you had a nexus to child exploitation or something with child crimes. And that was one of the issues that, number one, we have the problem where I don't have an inventory, I don't have things that you have to have audit compliance. And so I decided at that point I couldn't accept the grant because I couldn't sign off on it because I was responsible for it at that point. So that was number one. But secondly, philosophically, if I had gotten by that, then I would be in a situation where going to the council, telling them, because I don't think it would have been conveyed to the council, this grant was it was on a reduced amount. So then I'm talking about the county council, obviously, and then I had to explain to them, hey, next year it's going to be $197,000 coming in the general fund, and then everyone's going to be on there if you want to keep these grant employees. And there's 4 people on there. Now, Sergeant Barr was a Michigan City police officer before this ICAC unit came into place, and it was just you were paying his benefits and we were reimbursing through the grant. So that's kind of a net, where it really, he was going to be an officer or not, so he goes back on Michigan City. I looked at it and I thought, well, this is easier. It makes more sense for everybody in the county, tax-wise and everything else for dollars, to have this not be a separate unit. Because what we're doing is we're just basically duplicating services. There's already an ICAC, from Indiana State Prison embedded with the Sheriff's Department that does these investigations. And so we were kind of duplicating those issues. And so that's kind of philosophically also then the prosecutor was going to be a investigative body. And the only time that I want to become an investigative body is when I'm doing grand juries, and I have an investigator and we go out, we're going to conduct grand juries. That would be when it would be proper for the prosecutor's office to become but when you do it and you're going out and proactively going to look for people, you get into a conflict of interest for the prosecutor. So that's the other issue as far as that goes. But as far as, and I wrote a letter for the sheriff for him to get this equipment. Because I found out before I turned down the grant what was going to happen with this equipment. And I found out it was going to go to the sheriff, and I talked to him back in January, said, hey, if this stuff gets reverted, will you take the equipment? He said, yes. So it was kind of an idea that if the grant goes away, we stand up with equipment, and we can end up doing this for a lot cheaper. So that's kind of the background of it. And one of the things that for, $26,000, I didn't get into how the sheriff and Michigan City Police Department worked out the numbers, who's going to pay for the thing. It was kind of, that was out of my, once I withdrew and turned down the grant, the sheriff owns the property, and it was kind of, it goes into his budget. I assisted him to get the funding from the county council, but I didn't know what he was going to do this year, and no one approached me and asked me anything about, so I didn't know anything about last week or what was going on, other than some council members that called me about this. And when people say, hey, they're starting an ICAC unit, I have a problem with it calling it an ICAC, because that's internet crimes against children, which really limits your ability to use that. And I would say, no, that's too specialized. It's kind of like securities fraud. It's a very specialized thing. And instead, this is going to be used digitally, because as the sheriff said, 85, 90, I'd even say you could have 100% of cases involve a phone, involve digital evidence. So it's something that's important. It's something that, with the amount of cases we're filing, I think you probably have heard me before, we're way up on our numbers. We're already over the number of cases that were filed in 2015. At this time, we're at 96, 97% of the other year. So by the end of this month, middle of next month, our numbers of cases, criminal cases we filed, are going to be more than they filed in the last 4 years at any time. So this is important, and those are cases that we've solved. These are not the cases that we haven't solved. And I'm sure, Gene Simmons can tell you that there's a lot of cases that we're not able to solve sometimes, and so this is important evidence that can get us to that. Obviously, one of the most important things is that you have oversight. And I said that you want to have oversight. You want to be able to, that the prosecutor's office be involved to get search warrants before you search something, before you seize something, before you go in and grab this stuff, to be able to search it and do it right. Just because you go in and have a search warrant for a home, and it gives you the ability to search for, phones, other items of, digital, that have digital evidence on them, doesn't give you the right to then search those items. You have to go back and get another search warrant, which is, usually Judge Bergeson will give you a limiting one on a phone, only to go back 30 days. And then if you have more evidence there, you have to go back and get more probable cause to go back and, further. Because basically the way things are happening in the world, you carry around your phone, it pretty much has access to many things that you might not otherwise want, have an expectation of privacy in. So that's kind of just a background on it. I'm totally in favor of having a digital forensics unit. I've already reached out, and this is kind of looking in the future that, I went to Notre Dame undergrad and law school, and Ken Cotter, I know him, the prosecutor from St. Joe County. They actually use interns, and they have now 8 interns that do this digital, and they're deputized. And so I reached out to him last month when I saw the commercial on a Notre Dame game, and I'm like, because I knew he had a couple of interns, but now they've put this unit, a cyber crimes unit at Notre Dame. And my daughters go there and they know some of these people on that unit. So it's something that I've already reached out and I'll be meeting with him next week about, hey, is there a way we can do this and get our own interns? Because a major company is paying for that. Deloitte Touche, I think, is paying for the interns. So, if we can get grants or something from major companies to fund and pay interns, you got smart kids over there, they're able to turn around phones and this digital evidence within 4 to 8 hours. So they get a search warrant on a murder case, they take the phone, boom, download it, and they're able to go through that and get a return to the police, and it's a lot faster. So I know that Sergeant Matt Barr is backed up, and then obviously in a murder case, it becomes a priority. He jumps it ahead of other things, but then our other cases get pushed back. So this is really important. I understand some of the concerns, and if a case comes through and we get the evidence and something's been downloaded and there's not a search warrant that corresponds with that download, we do not use it as a prosecutor's office. We will not file charges on that because that is evidence that we are going to not be able to admit into trial. So there's no way we'll even pursue that. So those are some of the issues that I know there's some concerns about this. I don't know about all the allegations and stuff. I haven't seen some of the things, but I'm going to tell you that this is something that we're very, very concerned about going to a judge and obviously getting a search warrant, making sure it's all done correctly. So I'll try and answer any questions you may have, but I'm totally in favor of this. I think there's been some, no one really understands everything. I talked to CJI directly. No one's really come to me other than what, and the paper obviously called me, asked me what my position was. I said I've always been in favor of it, but it's for a forensic unit, not a specific ICAC unit.
Any questions from council members of Mr. Lake? Councilman Dabney?
Yeah.
Just expressing, some of my issues with just reading the paper. I was checking out the article, and you said there were cases where they did not get a warrant first, and thus some of those cases could not be prosecuted. Like you said, you would not use data that was retrieved without a warrant. I don't know, that makes me very uncomfortable and frightens me. And then I have the question in regards to the importance of it. You speak in favor of it. Mr. Boyd spoke in favor of it. And I'm trying to figure out, why didn't the county want to fund this $27,000? Are they that strapped for cash, or do they not think it's important? Or that is something that's just been kind of turning in my head for over a week now. Is why didn't they take this on? Did they give you any feedback as to why they could? And I didn't get a chance.
I'm not involved. I was not involved. I think this is what the sheriff and the chief did. That the sheriff would go ahead and get the funding for last year from the council, and then this year, because all this equipment is stationed at the Michigan City Police Department. So Michigan City is getting a benefit of this equipment. As to the issue, the download that I was talking about in the paper, because some of that stuff I read, I talk to them and then they write the stuff, and it's not always chronologically the exact same, and it kind of gets a little bit messed up. There was a phone that was seized and then turned over to the state police. State police assumed they had a search warrant. They didn't read the search warrant, and that phone was then downloaded. And when I found out that it was not, there's no way we could pursue anything with that. So that was the issue, is that obviously we don't have a search warrant. I'm very careful about that, asking, because I kept being told there's a search warrant. And when I kept requesting that, it took me about 2 months, but they kept providing me the same thing. I'm like, this is a seizure. This does not give you the right to search the phone. And where is that search warrant? When they said there wasn't, then that you knock that out of the equation. Anything that comes from that cannot be considered. So it is. I understand your concerns. This is like a tool. I would say that these things, and I know there was some issues. I don't know to what extent this equipment can be used for surveillance and that type of thing. For the extent, and that was one of my concerns. I know some council members had contacted me about specifically that issue. I don't know. I'm not an IT guy. I can talk to my son. He's got a master's in computer science but he would want to look at the computer, and say, hey, what's the software? What is this stuff? That kind of thing. He could tell me. He's in the cyber. He's a first lieutenant in cyber command for the Army, and he would know exactly whether the stuff could be or what not. I don't I don't know. I just know that Cellbrite and the other stuff that they're talking about gives you the ability, and I think Chief Swistek went through each one of those items was for, and it's it's Greek to me, basically is what I'd say. So hopefully I've answered your question. I'm not sure, but.
Councilman Prispolinski?
Prosecutor Lake, I appreciate you coming tonight, and I know that there's issues that you can't talk about this evening on caseload and things like that. My question, or one of my questions, is this: do you believe that we should have some kind of protocol established on how this thing is used through your office, so that everybody knows how this should be used? And I'm not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong, but you are the prosecutor, and as far as I'm concerned, you're the main highest law enforcement officer in our county. And I respect that. And I want to make sure that my priority is that this thing has oversight and it's not mismanaged or misused. And that I know that there's been improprieties in the past by some people in law enforcement. And I think that they should know a protocol from the get-go. And that way, nobody has a fear of the technology, and this is what I'm really looking at, is putting something together, not only with finance and who's going to fund it, but I think that's a good idea, as you talked about having these interns do that, and I think that's very credible. So how's your stand on this, doing some type of protocol?
I think the council and the county council need to figure out. I mean, this is what I ran into the sheriff last Tuesday out in the court going into the county complex, and we started talking about this, and I really think that there should have been something that was negotiated between the council, how you guys are going to do this stuff. That's not my province. I don't want to step on anyone's toes and say, hey, what I'm doing. I can't tell you whether to set up a protocol or not. I can just tell you that should I think that I would feel it's like the drug task force. You have members from Michigan City Police Department, you have members from LaPorte City, and you have members from the Sheriff's Department. And you then get a natural friction or, oversight. You don't have just one body going run a roughshod. They're going to be, if something, because they're going to go report back to their respective chiefs, and if there's an issue, the chiefs are going to get together and discuss it. If there's going to be something like this is the sheriff's property. I would really like to see, and my first thought on this was we should have, I like dual training, in training people so that you can have, if somebody leaves, then you have somebody who already understands how to do it, and it's just not sitting there. I don't know if that's possible, because this was set up originally, as I said, with the equipment as an internet crimes against children. So you have a lot of child pornography, and you get into different issues of that. But I think if you have officers who are sworn, law enforcement officers who are trained to do this, you can do it. There was an investigator that worked with Sergeant Barr, and when we got rid of the grant, she was on the grant side. There was 2 employees on the grant side that had to go from my office. Because we had no grant funding. And then there was 2 on the general fund, and one was, a prosecutor, and then I think Matt Barr was on that as well. So the issue, or maybe it's the investigator, I forget how it was laid out. So the issue becomes, I'm willing to discuss it. I don't like to be the one who has oversight, because I think I already have oversight in the fact that when evidence comes in and I say to them, where's the search warrant for this? If there's not one, we're not using that. We're just not going down that road. we're going to do things the right way. There's constitutional rights, and I'm, there's a balance, and I'm really the one that sets that bar as the prosecutor. And if you want to push the bar and start, getting this way where you're starting to violate people's rights and get into that, I'm not that person. I'm going to bend over backwards and make sure that people's rights are being protected and we're doing things the right way, because my job is not to go out and convict people. My job is to do justice. And so when you set that bar on where justice is, it's basically, going to be here. We're going to follow the law, and we're not trying to put our thumb on the scales of justice to get convictions, because that to me is not what I run by. It's not by how many cases we file. The reason I look at the cases and the case numbers is that we're dealing with victims have their right. Okay, they have the right to be a day in court, and we are going to prosecute cases, and I've said this many times, we're not going to have a two-tier justice system. If people commit crimes, we're going to file the cases if it's probable cause, and then we'll deal with it. It's not because we want to send everybody to prison. It's because, there's people who say, hey, this person gets away with it. I'm not that type of person. I don't have any set agenda other than justice, and that's prosecuting cases that are presented. So if somebody, regardless of who they are, I don't look who the person is. It could be the President of the United States. Doesn't matter to me. If a person has violated the law and there's probable cause to charge that person, okay, then I'll file the charges. And there's two ways to get, and this is another thing that I want to explain, is that the prosecutor's office does not go out and arrest people. I can't go out, unless I'm a citizen doing a citizen's arrest. If I start doing that, then I make myself a witness to the case, and I can't prosecute the case. It's absolute. My office is out. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't want this investigative body. If we're getting involved in that and becoming witnesses, it's going to be a conflict of interest. But what officers, if there's a statute on arrest, and you can find it under 35, I think it's 353311 is where arrest comes in, and what that deals is, in certain circumstances, if a person is committing a felony or a misdemeanor, and usually it's on a felony, they're committing it in the presence of the officer, that officer can arrest. So, a level 6 felony, if somebody's battering an officer, they can arrest that person, okay, and they commit, and that's a high level. So you get probable cause for that arrest, we're going to prosecute that. But when they don't arrest, and they turn in cases to the prosecutor, we're going to review them and then decide whether there's probable cause based on the evidence. And if there's not enough evidence there, we're not going to file charges. We don't just get told what we're going to do. I have a very, very good staff who knows what they're doing, very, very experienced prosecutors. I've got, 2 chief deputies on my staff, or not the chief deputy. I got the first female chief deputy in the history of LaPorte County. I've got, a former elected prosecutor on my staff. I've got people who have experience that you won't get anywhere else. And that was one of my things of going in to pay get the county to pay these people to keep them. Otherwise they're going to be, hired away. And I had one person hired away from my 4D office because I couldn't match what they offered. Vigo County came in and took her away. So, or not Vigo, it's wherever Kokomo is. I always forget that one. Anyway, I can go on, but hopefully I've answered that question.
You did.
Okay.
You did. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilman Dabney?
Right. And this is not a question for you. This is, you can actually, is anybody else having any questions for Mr. Lake?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, I'm going to get to how I got to the point where I made this motion to cut this out of our city budget. We were going through the budget hearings, and we were going down through the police budget, and we get down to contractual services. And I noticed last year $300,000 had been spent in that line item. And then for this year, it was a zero. So obviously, my ears pop up when I see that, looking at the numbers. So I asked the question, why did they spend $300,000 last year in contractual services and there's a zero this year? So the answer was, well, we decided to fund it out of the Riverboat Fund. So it moved to the Riverboat Fund. And if I hadn't have caught it, we wouldn't have known it. So now we're discussing the contractual services out of the Riverboat Fund. And when we set up to do our budget hearings, we get a list of all the departments that we're going to review. And Boyd Development and the Riverboat Fund are not actually in those things that we're supposed to review. So if we had not, as a committee, gone to look at it ourselves, we would not have known. So that made me bristle a little bit that this was put to come out of the Riverboat. I didn't even know it. So that's when we started to get into these discussions. And so we started to look at it and we started going through line by line, and then we started to notice this. And this is how we got to this. Right. So finally the question started to fly about what is this? What's it going to do? And And that's what my questions came about. Why isn't the county funding it and everything like that? And then it got to the point where, like I said, if I had not pointed it out, you would not be here tonight. This would not even be an issue. Where I felt like I should have been told something like this, and I wasn't. So that made me start to, like I said, to inquire and have these questions. And now I get to this, and I start to see, some of the dangers I think can happen. And this is why, even with that information, you said it's important. But now and then we have to take tough votes, tough action. I still going to make my motion to cut this from the budget, and then let the council fall where it may, because in my mind, I just think the way this came about, I'm just totally not comfortable with it. So that's where I stand on it moving forward. And I think I have to read this motion into the record, because we were kind of scrambling around, and that's what I have passed out here, the actual motion, how I'm going to read that into the record. So I'll have Mr. Meyer explain to me after we make it to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, you read it at the last council meeting. Didn't you? Okay,
I'm fine with it.
okay. Just a couple comments, and I'm glad to see, Mr. Lake, that you support this. You support the concept of the program, because so do I. I think it's a necessary tool to fight crime. The only issue I have, and I know Councilman Przybylski and Councilman Dabney talked about it, and that's this oversight. And I know that you kind of explained the oversight whereby you get the evidence, or you get the telephone, you get the computer, and then they have to have a warrant with it, correct?
Right, a search warrant. Right.
But and I know that you said in the paper that the city council needs proper oversight to protect the people's rights. But somebody has to explain that to the council. What that means, what the council, if we need to do something, or if the police department needs to do it, who needs to do what to make sure that people's rights are not violated. That's one of my big concerns, is to make sure that people's rights aren't violated. Sure. If you have this tool and you're arresting criminals and doing the right thing in that respect, I have no problem with that. I just want to make sure that people's rights are not being broken.
And I think that's, again, the same point. Obviously, I can protect the people's rights from the standpoint of court and evidence and oversight on what is evidentiary issues. What I can't do, if this equipment has the ability to surveil and go in, like hack into a computer, unless somebody else is sitting there, if you have one person who's in control of that, they would be able, because if that's not being presented to me, you know what I mean? I don't know. So if you have those type of issues where there is, I don't know if that has the capacity. As I was telling you, I'm not an expert on this computer stuff. And my son's coming home from Georgia on Wednesday, and I'll show him and ask him what the data is on this stuff, and ask him, say, hey, is this because I know the reality from just talking to him, that the government, and I don't know if this equipment, $250,000 worth of equipment, I just don't know the answer to that. That whether you can use that like the NSA does, or the Army, where you can break into computers and watch, and without them even knowing you're there. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know in what way, other than I can tell you, I only know what I can do from the standpoint of being the prosecutor on the evidence. If it's being used in some other nefarious way, I don't know, unless you have more than one person involved in that task force, and that you have to trust that you're going to have that, like the drug task force, where you have more than one person from more than one entity. But again, that's something that, I think would have to control. I'm willing to sit down and discuss the philosophy of it, and discuss what are the best ways to do it, whatever you want to do. I really, really think this equipment is necessary. I wouldn't be here if I
Right.
didn't think it was. I wouldn't.
And so
I can
do
just
I.
tell you that the evidence that I've been able to obtain from phones has helped me convict 2 murderers. We would not have been able to do that without that evidence. So, this is within the last 4 years. So I know how powerful this evidence is. Geolocation, it's very important what this stuff can get you in the proper setting with the proper search warrants. And we do that. Our office is doing that. Now, can I tell you that they're using it in some unconstitutional way? I don't know. Because I'm not sitting in that room. I've never been in the room where this equipment is. I've never been in there to look at it. I don't know. So I'm not sitting there going, say, hey, you got that stuff on there. So I don't know what would be the best way to have that oversight. Honestly, I just don't know how to tell you that other than what I said.
Okay. All right, thank you with that. And then one more thing, as far as the budget goes, or Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I had a couple things.
Go ahead.
So, now one thing I wanted to, you touched on most of it. So, this is funded until the end of this year, as of right now, right, by the county.
I believe so. I think these are licenses. So, and that was one of the things why I had to make the quick decision I did on the grant. I couldn't wait because I had $33,000 worth of software I was supposed to pay for in January, by January 19th. And so I had to make these decisions quickly, back in January. I think that he got funded through the end of the year. They talked to the companies until they got the funding, so they were able to keep this whole year. So, and going forward, on funding, I think, again, you need to have like a joint agreement, a memorandum of understanding or something. There was one for 2016 to let Sergeant Barr work in the unit. If you go back, there was a memorandum, but it was never renewed that I saw. That was one of the things, is like there was a memorandum of understanding that was brought by the council, but it was nothing else was passed. So I would think that you would negotiate a memorandum of understanding. I'm willing to sit at that table, consider funding. Because, one of the things where I do have infraction deferral money, but the more tickets, infraction deferral comes from officers writing tickets. And Michigan City Police Department doesn't write a lot of tickets. Otherwise, that would be money that would be going back and coming to the budget, because I think they've got the riverboat funds. They don't really need to do that. So that's just something that is there, that those funds come back. We fund a lot of projects and a lot of equipment purchases for other agencies through those infraction deferral. So it's reality. That's what it is. So,
and you said you would be willing to sit in.
I'm willing to sit in,
and come up with an understanding of what really needs to happen going forward, as far as oversight, potential for liability. Because if this is misused in any way, and someone is found that their constitutional rights were violated, then the city would be liable, wouldn't they? It's our officer, and the equipment is at our facility.
Well, I think if you have an officer that goes rogue, okay, if they're just go off out of the corral and they're doing stuff unconstitutional, they can be prosecuted for that. They're going to, what is known as giglio. That's when they're doing something that they're basically not going to be able to be an officer if that's found out to be true. The second thing, if they're doing it at the behest of a city official, like the chief of police or something, then the city may, you have to talk to your attorney about that. I don't want to give you legal advice, but it could open up to a tort claim notice and that type of thing if it's being noticed and they're not stopping it. I mean, that's the whole idea. If you're violating somebody's constitutional rights and doing it knowing, and there's the intent, I have not seen anything that leads me to believe that it happened. I've heard rumors, but like I said, I don't put a lot in rumors. I don't put a lot of what people say unless it's corroborated. People can say whatever they want, but give me the evidence. And this digital evidence is the stuff that corroborates whether a person's at somebody's house or whether they're at a store or whether they're at something else where they committed a crime. That you can get pretty good stuff off the phone. That you can put their location there, and we've been able to solve some crimes. And they said we can also prove that the person wasn't there. Same thing. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Beatry.
I'm about to finish out 8 years on city council, and I have never sat with the city council that wasn't unanimous on providing the fire department and the police department with anything and everything they needed to safeguard this community and to safeguard their own lives in the line of duty. And this is clearly a forensic tool that the police are asking for, the county sheriff, the chief of police, the county prosecutor. So I'm dumbfounded that we would reverse our stance and say we're not going to fund this for them. It makes no sense to me when the only people who seem to be speaking against it are outspoken critics of law enforcement. I don't get it. So I'm not on board with you, Councilman Dabney, and I'm not going to vote in favor of cutting this in the budget.
Order.
Councilman.
I gotta address
No
that.
one can impeach somebody's position, and this has got to stop. And that's exactly what's
What are
going
you
on
talking
right
about?
now.
All I'm doing is saying I cannot agree with the amendment. I'm going to vote against it. That's not impeaching anything, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
yes, yeah. I'm not. I'll call the chair.
Councilman Dabney?
I understand us having the disagreement, but he said everybody who's spoken out against this is an outward critic, or how'd you say it? Of the
We're critic of law enforcement.
and that has not been me,
Oh, okay.
at least.
I did not mean that.
Okay.
I'm talking
I
about
just wanted to
people
get
in the
that
community.
clear.
I apologize.
Okay.
You're 100% right.
Thank you.
But, you know, if I just may say something, you hear, as a prosecutor, as I said, you got the line of justice that you got to say. So I listen to make sure, and people may not like it, you know, from whatever, I don't care what the criticism is. I'm going to sit down if somebody wants to talk to me to have transparency. And so if somebody raises an issue about this issue, I'm you know, because my first number, I never want to send an innocent person to jail or to prison. And that's my first thing. Is this stuff absolutely necessary? I would sit here, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that this equipment is absolutely necessary. I respect your motion. I understand, and I think because it came to, I know you guys were blindsided with it, and I really think that going forward there should be a negotiation. As I said, if you wanted to do something on that, this equipment, I will come scream to hell and high water that you need this equipment. In this day and age, to be able to solve crimes, you need this equipment. Are there some issues that could be done better with oversight or more transparency? I'm always willing to listen and try and do whatever I can to lend a hand to that. But I don't want to get into an argument just because somebody says something. I'm willing to listen, and I hear those criticisms of both sides, and it's like, hey, well, you know, that means I'm doing my job, I think, to the best of my ability. So I just want to say, that wasn't a criticism of you, Mr. Beecher. I just want, you know, we go way back. So I just want to say that in general, that just because people complain doesn't mean we should just disregard it, you know.
Right, and Ms. Blake, just for you and to let the public know how we got to where we're at this evening, is that in my discussions with Chief Swistek, well, the first time I heard about it was when we were in Finance Committee meeting, and this came up, was brought to our attention by the City Controller and also Chief Swistek, and started telling us about this unit and that we needed, you know, $27,000 in order to keep this going. And we had no idea what it was all about. All we know is that, you know, Chief Swistek said he turned in his budget for the year to the controller, and then the information came back to us at budget hearings saying that, well, we think the administration endorses this. But so my discussions with the chief have been is that what the chief needs to do, and he says he's going to do it, is to get with, and there has to be a memorandum of understanding put together between LaPorte County Council or LaPorte County Sheriff's Department, the Michigan City, whether it's the City of Michigan City, the Board of Works, or the Police Department, and the City of LaPorte, their police department, where everybody pays in to this unit, 27,000, you know, equally, and takes a look at paying Officer Barr's salary in an equal basis. And as you said, and I know Councilman Przybylski referred to it, not this evening, but in previous discussions, as far as training someone else in case Officer Barr decides to leave and go somewhere else, that somebody's ready to step right in and take care of that. So Chief Swistek realizes that there's other entities that need to get on board and help finance this because it's being used for the whole county. And it makes, and without a doubt, it's not profitable. Well, it's profitable against the criminals, and I think it's a great thing for the county, and we need to have it. Just in that report we got from Chief Swistek, there were 69 cases. I can't say they were all convictions, but I know that there were 69 cases that this unit worked on year-to-date 2019. So it's being used, and I think it's being used in an effective manner. So that's kind of where it came about from the finance part of things. And
Yeah, and the thing about it is, if this was an ICAC unit, it wouldn't be able to be used exclusively for all 69 of those cases. Again,
Right.
If it was a grant issue, that's and that goes back to that whole issue I was
yeah,
talking about.
and I'm glad you mentioned the grant, because Chief Swistek said that he is going to go after the grant, and if he gets the grant, and he will not know until June whether he gets the grant or not. He will not know until June, and whatever monies are left he will use the grant for the remainder of the year, and whatever money is left in that line item, he will put back into the general fund. He won't put it back into his budget. He's going to put it back into the general fund of the city, and then run that unit off of the grant. And that's what the chief told me in his discussions here in the last couple of days. So with that being said, are there any other comments or questions? Councilwoman Carnes?
I just wanted to comment that I think people confuse this as a surveillance tool, and it's not surveillance, it's a forensics tool, and I'm a certified information system security professional, and so I can speak to that. The tool can restore deleted data, and as you said, get location information, and in some cases it can override some of the protection systems that people have put in place in some cases. So it formats the data in a readable format, which makes it easy to use for evidence. And I think that absolutely that our police need to use this tool, and there's no reason why we have to send equipment, seized equipment, downstate and wait when we can do it here. We already have the equipment. And so I'm also in support of it.
Councilman Fitzpatrick?
The way you've explained it, and for the the versatility of use for this program would help with crime fighting, I guess. I'm in 100% support of it. However, I do not believe that we should fund this until we have some oversight over it, or at least more understanding of what it's going to be used for, who's going to have access to it, who's going to be responsible for everything going forward. And like you said, some sort of MOU and everything. So at this point, I don't think I could support it until, we have to the end of the year until it's not funded. So we have time to have these discussions.
Councilman
I absolutely
Simmons?
think it's a good investigative tool as well. We're talking oversight. Isn't there always a person in charge before you go out on investigations who remind everyone that, hey, we need search warrants. We can't do this, we can't do that unless we have a search warrant. Other than that, what oversight is there? Person in charge should be in charge.
Yeah.
Councilman Stimley?
One of the things I wanted to bring up too is, say this didn't pass tonight, the police are still going to use the system if it's not in Michigan City, if it's not in LaPorte County. They're going to go wherever they can, to get the locations, like you said, of the phone. If it's not here, if I'm correct, they're still going to use this to investigate
Yeah.
cases. This tool.
Well,
So-
yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but
Yeah.
to answer the question, it is correct. If they have this until the end of the year, as Mr. Fitzpatrick said, they'll have the use of it for the licenses through the end of the year. And in order to use it, in order, if you get a phone or you get any type of digital device, whether it be a thumb drive or whatever, the protocols are for Sergeant Barr that he has to, before he can open that and download it, he has to have a search warrant. So that's what the thing is. And if it doesn't happen, then that evidence can't be used. You have to be able to support and show to me or my office that you have a legitimate search warrant, or it's going to be challenged in court. So that's one issue. As far as, and Ms. Carnes just said, I don't know what this equipment can do. I've never seen it with my own eyes. So and I don't know what capacity, but if her expertise is saying it can't be used for surveillance to like hack into somebody's computer or something of that nature, then that lessens any of the issues of that you may have, the concerns of violation. Because if it's just a forensic tool means you go in and you examine what you have, the evidence, and to get something that's you have damaged phones, you have phones that have now Apple, iPhones have these codes, all this these programs, they are able to hack into those phones, but they can only do it with the search warrant. After judicial, and if a judge passes, and if a person has an issue with that search warrant, they can challenge it in court. So there is oversight. As I said, my only thought process was, how is this thing being paid, memorandum of understanding, those type of things. If you guys want it, I mean, that's your province of deciding. And like I said, I'm willing to sit down with it. But the only thing I could think of is that it really, for in the future, if Sergeant Barr leaves, I mean, I know he's had a lot of training, but we can work on training other people. I'm willing to try and facilitate some of that, to train some other people so that other people have access to this equipment. And that will give you automatically, if you have more than one person, who's using it, if they see something, it's going to give you some oversight. If you only have one person, who's watching that person. I think that's kind of what I've heard in the past. It doesn't matter who that person is. If you have one person who's control and has absolute power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I mean, that's the way it is. So it becomes a very, very dangerous thing. So I don't know what the answer is, other than I can tell you, from my point of view, it's anything that's unconstitutional is not going to be used by us.
Where I was going with this,
Sorry.
Regardless, Mr. Lake, if we have this technology, if we don't have it in LaPorte County, we're going to drive to Fort Wayne if we need somebody's use of a cell phone in the case. It might take a little bit longer or not. But my point I was getting at too is we're going to be sending officers wherever they have to drive for this. We're probably going to be spending more in overtime than to fund this program.
You're absolutely right. I cut you off before, so I apologize about that. And that's kind of where I'm trying to get to, is getting us access to South Bend's cyber crimes unit as well, because that would be 20 minutes away, and having interns that would be able to do that. That's something we're hopefully looking at and trying to figure out how we can utilize that.
And you would be deputizing these interns?
They would be, whether they'd be deputized, and that's what I'm trying to find out from Ken Cotter, because I know he deputizes them. They're law enforcement officers who have been trained to do this, the downloads and that. So obviously we're going to do it the correct way. Whether they're deputized by the prosecutor's office or whether they're deputized, I don't like that idea. I think he deputizes them as part of South Bend Police Department. But I haven't gotten an answer from him. I'm going to be meeting with him next week to discuss some of these issues.
Okay, any other council comments? Thank you, Mr. Lake.
Am I free to go?
Free to go.
All right, thanks.
Okay, anyone else from the public wish to speak on this?
Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. It's funny, Mr. Simmons, you talk about oversight. All of us up here talking about oversight. I'm quite sure you remember the Taylor case, where our police department eavesdropped in that case and did some other illegal stuff, going to get evidence. We remember the John Larkin case also, don't we? Remember the state of Indiana versus Rodney McCormick case, don't we? Accountability is the problem that we have around here right now. I'm not saying none of that technology, and I'm not anti-police, but I am anti-corrupt city council officials, city police officers, or anybody else that's supposed to be a public servant and don't do their job by law. I'm against that. And I'm always going to be against that. We have serious issues by just letting them hold this equipment. This is the phone that was confiscated. This phone was confiscated. on November the 2nd. They did a legal search on that phone. You heard Mr. Lake? They didn't have a warrant for this phone. Shouldn't have done it. They even sent it down to the state police lab. And they had the technology. They still sent it to the police lab. And they didn't have a warrant. You think this is the first time this happened? Think it's going to be the last time? What's scary about this is I'm just a regular citizen. Ron Mayer stands in my way. I speak out against him, or I speak out against you or anybody else up here, which I have the right to do. It doesn't give you the right to take my personal property and go into it. Wait until your rights are violated. Wait until one of your kids' rights are violated. And I guarantee you have a different standard on that. This is the most dangerous equipment in the hands of people who are, our leadership at our police department is bad. We got officers retiring. Just had another officer leave. Another one on our way out the door. People are leaving that police department because they're tired of the corruption.
Mr. McCormick, you're out of order. We're not
How?
talking about departments. We're not talking about
We're-
department heads being corrupt and that. We're not talking about that. You're making reference to Chief Switchdeck as far as being corrupt in his leadership. And
This is a public forum.
let me finish.
Where's that
Let
at?
me finish. And according to what I read here, you cannot
Where?
or make reference to anybody if they're not even at the meeting.
Where does it say that at? If they're not at the meeting, you can't make your comment. That doesn't even make sense.
You're going to say they're corrupt.
They're-
I'm just telling you.
You know Cameron Kent?
You don't want
Okay, you made your point. Do you know who Cameron Kent is? He was a young man who was accused of shooting someone. Don't interrupt me, please. This man was accused of shooting someone. He was only 18 years. What are you doing now?
out of order.
How?
I just told you that you're making reference to the police chief.
Who said anything about the police chief? Who said anything about corruption? Who said anything about the police chief? I'm talking about Mr. Kent.
Have a seat.
I'm talking about Mr. Kent. I'm talking about Mr. Kent.
Please have a seat, Mr. McCormick. Please have a seat, sir. Is there anyone else from the public who wants to speak on this matter?
I just have a question as to, Kathy Stransky, 223 East Barker Ave, here in Michigan City. I just have a question as to how do we verify or how do we know that on a Saturday afternoon, if they take someone in and they want to look at their phone, that they don't do it and then go get the warrant from the judge? How are we going to control that they have the warrant first, not second?
Good point, thank you.
Yeah, maybe we could have a log every time they take somebody's personal stuff, that we could keep a log, and what time they took them in and what time they downloaded it and who the judge was and what court they served and where they found the judge. Thank you.
Dwayne Perry, 2206 Maple Street. Ms. Stransky has a point. What I'd like to say, and I hope the council takes under consideration, I'm not disagreeing with Mr. Lake. I have a world of respect for him. He operates in a different world than we do. This equipment is necessary for good law enforcement. It's critical. I agree with that. Money is an issue, but money is the secondary issue as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Prispolinski of the 2nd Ward, I believe, hit the nail right on the head when he said it's about protocol. It's about more than protocol. It's protocol, usage, and oversight. An example was given of this equipment being used without the search warrant being in place. At the moment that happened, the suspects constitutional rights were violated. What do you do then? It's been done. That's where the protocol, establishing procedures for the usage of this, guidelines. An example, I did contracts for a defense contractor. When I opened up bids, the bids were received. I was not the custodian of the bids. They were brought into a room at the scheduled time for opening, and I opened the bid in front of 3 witnesses. I didn't see the bids. That was done to prevent collusion. What we have here is we need oversight. If this equipment is to be used, it should not be used at the Michigan City Police level. It should be used in the presence of an oversight person, whether it's a member of the state police, whether it's a member of the LaPorte County Sheriff's Department, Portage Police Department, U.S. Marshal. We operate at our level in Michigan City. We have issues. We have heartburn over issues. We have likes and we have dislikes. This equipment needs to be used with proper oversight. I believe it's necessary, and I'm not a critic of law enforcement. I support law enforcement. We have crime issues in Northwest Indiana that we need to address. We have crime issues in Michigan City that we need to address for our survival as a community. But this equipment needs to be used. It needs to be controlled, its usage. It should not be used without a protocol being in place, and that protocol requires a certain person to use it with just cause. The just cause has been determined. I'll hurry up, Mr. President. That just cause is followed, the procedure is followed, and then it's used in front of a third party to assure that there aren't personal vendettas, that it's not misused, and people's rights are violated. I hope that you keep that under consideration when you make your judgment. It's the money's an issue. I understand that, but you're dealing with something that's really big here. And Councilman Stimley said it doesn't need to be put into use right now. We've got another avenue. We need to have procedures in place before we release this for use. Thank you.
Before you vote for this, I'm just wondering if you guys can probably assure that Jason Frazier, 119 Dale Road, Michigan City. And 119 Dale Road, Michigan City, Indiana. Okay, this my question is there any way that you guys can reassure us that there's nothing else going to happen, other than what it's being used for? I mean, this is what I base my vote on, is if you have the confidence to know that a police officer or maybe someone that's in charge of this won't misuse it. I mean, that's something I would probably take in consideration for your votes. You do have time. If it was up to me, I would probably put it to the side for a while and come up with a solution. I mean, we do need it, but how to go about it is another thing. Unfortunately, I think it has to be kind of babysitted in a way. I don't know, but I consider at least putting it to the side and thinking about some solutions on how it can be controlled and not misused. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Tim Smith, 15 Jamestown Drive. How do we know that there's not protocols already? In all this discussion tonight that I've heard, I haven't heard anyone refer to the police department. I wasn't here the last council meeting, Councilman Prevolinski, but from what I understand, this is a needed tool. Second of all, we don't even know. There's a lot of guessing and things that have been said here tonight, but I don't see anything that has been factual on it, except for talking about Councilman Dabney of where the money's coming from for, or except what Prosecutor Lake said. After his discussion, now we're hearing all this stuff of hearsay. There's nothing here that's saying that there isn't a protocol. Thank you.
Larry Silvestri, 314 Kenwood Place, Michigan City. I think there's a lot of confusion because this is related to computers.
the police occasionally need to gather evidence. They have sledgehammers to break down doors. They can't do that. They can't go into somebody's house until they get a search warrant. This is identical. This is an identical situation. They can't go into your cell phone or your computer or your thumb drive and gather data without a search warrant. So if they do that, they can't, if they break that law and break into your house without a search warrant, anything they find is inadmissible in court, and they could get in legal trouble. The computer forensic, a cell phone, a computer, a thumb drive, anything of that nature, if they access that information without a search warrant, it's inadmissible. That's the oversight. That's the oversight. This is all confused because it's related to computers. Would you deny the police department their sledgehammers to break down a door? What's the difference? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jason Frazier, 119 Dale Road, Michigan City, Indiana. I guess my thing is I want to point out that this was misused at one time. And if you haven't been in trouble, that's fine. Maybe it's coming your way. But my only point is we have rights in America and we have rules to go by. We need to stick by those rules and we need to stick by them good. Now, if people can't follow rules, such as our current chief, which he did break the law by going into someone's phone without a search warrant before, how can we trust that this is not going to happen again? I'm for it, but like I said, I'm going to say it again, is people have rights, no matter if you're innocent or guilty. That's the thing that you got to look at. That's the thing that's good about America is we're not like Russia or other countries where you're automatically guilty of something or innocent because we just want you to be. Innocent until proven guilty, right? That's all. Thank you.
Hi, Angie Nelson, Deitch, 126 Lady Lane. Can you just table this portion of the money until you put together some type of MOU with the county and figure out the background? It sounds like from what Lake said that there are a lot of pieces that have not been discussed. The MOU is expired. Some different things have expired. It just seems like we're spending a lot of time when you can just table this portion of it and move on and get the information and sit down with the council, the county council or somebody, instead of us talking about this for another 20 minutes. So I don't know if you guys can do that or not, but it sounds like you need some more information. So just my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Damon Carnes, 1231 East 8th Street. Good evening, council. To me, this kind of sounds like what we went through with the license plate reader. And as far as facts, all you have to do is go on the internet and you will find case after case after case where law enforcement has violated the law using technology. It's general information. And it's not that people in society are against police. It's not that they're against using equipment to do and help with crimes being solved, because I think we all, at the end of the day, want that. But we want it done right. That's what we want done right. And those people that is using that equipment, that they use it what it's supposed to be used for. But you can go and find all over the world, case after case, of different equipment that is used by law enforcement has been used the wrong way. Whether it's a dash cam, whether it's body cameras, whatever kind of equipment, it's been used wrong. So it is not that it is unfounded. It is not that we don't have the facts, because the facts are there. And then you have to look at the aspect of society who is used against the most. And we all know that people of color, black and brown, when those violations are attempted, usually happens on those communities. So when you present a piece of equipment that is going to help solve crimes, automatically those parts of society are alarmed because they have been used improperly on those aspects of society. Let's just think about what has happened over the years with this phone having a camera and what law enforcement has been caught doing wrong things over the years. And had we not had this camera, there are a lot of police officers that are in prison right now would not be in prison because they didn't get caught by a camera. But the society and those communities have been complaining about these things for years. So we all need to work together. Black and brown communities want to be safe just as well as Caucasian communities. But let's do things right. If we have the equipment, and I don't think anybody's against it, I'm not against the equipment, I just want to see it used right. I just want to know that our law enforcement is going to use it right. That's the main thing. I don't think anybody, and it's no disrespect to what Mr. Beardsley was saying, but we're only critical of the people that do things wrong. I applaud our officers that go out and work hard every day, and they're honest, and they do their job right. We applaud them. Have no problem with them. But the ones that don't and go rogue and don't do what's right, they need to be called out. Mm-hmm. They need to be called out. And I think we all want the same thing. And we've got to work together so that all people can feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Public comment is now closed. Are there any council comments? Any council comments on this amendment? Councilman Przybylski?
Was there a second on it?
I believe there was a motion by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilman Fitzpatrick at the last meeting.
All right. Yeah, I would like to make, after all these comments by the prosecutor and the general public and by our fellow council members, is that I do believe that we need to have oversight on this. I'm not afraid to know any technology. I use technology every day on my job. I work in a steel mill. But on the other hand, I take exception to the comments of hearsay and things of that nature. The fact of the matter is that people have said that we need oversight on this. And I want you to think about all the members of the council. There's only one person controlling this apparatus right now. I have a problem that I think people need to be cross-trained, and at the county level and at our police department, and I believe that can be done by having some type of an agreement with the prosecutor's office, the county, and other municipal entities in our county. Because you have to take into consideration that this one officer dedicated to this forensic digital data gathering, his salary is $54,000. His benefits, I don't have an estimate on that. His car, you can figure it's at least 30 grand. So Michigan City's already, what people don't understand, what happened to the council members when we were in the budget hearings, that this was laid on us as a last minute egg. The chief already had Mr. Barr doing this last year. Didn't tell any of the council members. Yes, and Mr. Dabney did bring that red flag up, and I was sitting there how they were trying to hide it. They were trying to hide this money so everybody knows in the general public that they moved it out of the budget into the riverboat money. You know, that I kind of took offense to that, you know, because what are they trying to do? Pull the wool over our eyes? And Mr. Dabney's correct. If he wouldn't have read through that, we wouldn't be here now. But the thing is this. Oversight doesn't hurt anyone. Oversight is good so the product works good. And not one person should not be the only individual operating this. And I do think that you need one person from each law enforcement agency trained on this. So in saying that, I think that we need to vote this down for right now. The system is still going to work for the rest of the year. And we do our job as council members and work with the sheriff and the chief and the county council in Trail Creek and Michiana Shores and Long Beach. And remember what Mr. Rodney McCormick said to you. Yes. Michigan, you need to remember this, and that's what I think about, that the Michigan City Police Department did eavesdrop on a case. Long Beach police were involved with eavesdropping. I mean, this is still America. And we have to guard those protections at all times. Even though we're a small city, we need to guard those in our civil liberties. Remember, you're innocent until proven guilty. And I think that sometimes people get too zealous, and that we need to really watch how our paramilitary organization is operating. I want to give you a quote that goes back from Dwight Eisenhower. He said, you have to keep track of the military machine. Police departments are paramilitary organizations. And we as civilians have an obligation for that oversight. And so I urge all the members to go ahead and support Mr. Dabney on this item. It's not that we're against anyone. It's that we're doing our job with oversight and getting these other agencies to come and to help pay the bill and to train somebody else. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a clarification. Yeah, I threw oversight out there, but I wasn't speaking in terms of not needing oversight. I was just reminding everyone that whenever these initiatives occur, there's always someone in charge, and that someone in charge is where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any other council comments? All right, just one comment before we take the vote is I agree with the oversight. I also agree that this is a much needed tool by the Michigan City Police Department, LaPorte County Police Department, City LaPorte Police Department, who's ever using it to curb crime and to investigate crimes. But I believe that we had time where we could come up with an MOU, and if we don't have an MOU by the end of the year, that we can still take a look at possibly, putting this back into the budget at that time in order to keep it financed and to keep it going. I'm not one to say, well, we're just going to, not worry about it. We'll wait until the bond or the, not the bond, but the funding, the grant comes through. Because I'm not in favor of that. That's, I'm not waiting 6 months for a grant to come through and let this program sit on the side. To me, it's too valuable to the city. And, I understand what Councilman Stimley saying that, we can also always send the device to Fort Wayne or South Bend, what have you, but to me, that's not putting it on the fast track and getting the job done for the police department or for the citizens of Michigan City. The way I understand it, if this evidence is, or these devices are out getting gone through, and the criminal is still walking out on the streets and he hasn't been arrested yet, whereby as if all this is done within a matter of 4 to 5 hours, then arrest can be made. So that's where I stand on it. I don't have any problem tabling it this evening, but I'm not just going to let it float out there and not have financing ready for it. Okay.
Mr. President, I just want
Yes,
to make
sir,
one
Mr.
comment.
Stimley.
I think maybe my comments might have got mixed up a little bit. My thing was I would not like to see it, our officers go to Fort Wayne or other places like that. I'd like to see it in-house in Michigan City because, in fact, we'd probably be paying more than $27,000 to send our officers with the caseload and wherever we have to go to these different places. So that's what I just wanted to make clear. And like you said, I don't want to see this not funded. I believe the county council last year voted to fund this, if that's my understanding. And I think maybe Michigan City, we should step up and fund it this year. And then I would love to see a member of understanding between Michigan City police officers and the LaPorte County sheriffs or LaPorte County police, to fund this in a 3-year program. If we take 1 year, they take 1 year, whatever the chief prosecutor or whoever would be to put this together. So I just want to make myself clear about my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman, for clarifying that. Any other council comments? Having none, Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Don Przepolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Przepolinski?
Aye for the amendment.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Nay.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
We have 6 in favor and 2 opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla.
Mr. President?
Councilman Przepolinski?
Since we're on the ordinance and resolution for appropriation and on the tax rates, which is on the Riverboat Gaming Fund, I have an amendment that I would like to introduce for the police department. Thank you. This is to amend the MCPD fund line item, or 2042 Riverboat Gaming Fund, line item 445-020, fleet rotation. The mayor's proposal is 420,000. I would like to amend that to reduce to 150,000, and then the line item should read 270,000 for the 2020 budget.
Is there a second to the amendment?
A question for clarification. The fleet rotation is what exactly?
The fleet rotation in that line item is for their vehicles. It's on in your budget book. It is page 12 in the tab 6. And it says right in there, fleet rotation.
Okay, there's a motion and a second.
And
And there's a sponsor. Yeah, hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Prispolinski.
The reason I'm making this amendment is because at the budget hearings, the chief said that he would like to have 6 cars sitting around. Well, today, I asked the controller to find out how many officers are on the drop program. Well, I was told that there was 1 that notified the city. He also said that there was 3 more officers that he thought were leaving one in January, 1 in February, and then another one later on in the year. So that's going to be 3, and we had an officer leave just recently. So that's 4 cars that came available. And I don't believe that they need that many cars, because a car is they estimate it's at $37,000. So that leaves them with enough money to buy 7 cars. And I believe it's adequate for what they need right now, plus the vehicles that are going to come available. Because the vehicles that are come available will go to the new probationary officers. That's normally how those cars are rotated on your seniority. But with saying that, I just don't believe that they definitely, yes, you need to rotate your fleet, but I just don't believe you need 10 cars at this particular time. They can't even, they already had, 2 people leave this year, and then on top of that, he was saying that they want to give the probies a new car, or a car. Well, the probies got to ride with a field training officer for a year, because they're probationary officers. So, I'm out there looking at trying to save some money, and if you want to support it, I think it's well worth supporting it. They are going to have adequate vehicles this year, or for 2020. Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
Good evening, Mr. President, Rich Murphy, City Controller. I just want to clarify the information request by Councilman Prespolinski today. At the Board of Works meeting, he approached and requested what happens when a police officer makes a decision to enter the drop. And I told him that the police officer makes a request or a notification to the controller's office. And he asked me, well, how many times has that been done? I said, 1 person has actually made the request in writing. 1 has verbally notified us, and that there are several others that, through communication with Chief Swistek, will be making that request. However, that information has not been received by my office. So I just want to clarify so that Chief Swistek and we were in communication today, and there are several other officers that he is aware that will be entering the drop. So I just want to make that point of clarification so that the chief understands the question I received, what I reported to the councilman, and then what he reported to me, and that there are other officers out there that have communicated that their intent to do that. However, my office has not actually received the paperwork. So that's a point of clarification on that. My other question is just for confirmation on the amendment that you just made. can you cite a line item number and dollar amount so that my office can confirm that? And I'm referring to the original amendment that was already passed. Okay. Because what has to happen is my office has to actually make these changes on the actual ordinance. And if we can do that tonight, I'm willing to go up and make the changes, bring them down here so that all the councilmen can sign the ordinance while you're still here. Otherwise, if we don't do it that way, I can do it tomorrow at my office, but then I need to be assured that all council members come in to sign the ordinance within 48 hours. So I'm just communicating that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe we could all, you guys vote and then
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Dabney has it, but just wait until we get done with this vote. Okay, then that way, depending on what we do, then you can have all the information at one time. All right, okay. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this amendment? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this amendment? Any council comments on this amendment? I have a couple of comments. It's to reduce the 420 by 150 down to 270. So the 150, how many vehicles does that account for? Is that 6 cars, 5 cars, 7 cars? Do we have any idea, Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, it's 3 cars.
3 cars?
There's 3 cars.
Mr. Prespolinski, that's 3 cars, because in their budget proposal, they asked, or they had a rough estimate from information that one of these new Fords would cost $37,000. So the $270,000 could buy them. I had a rough estimate of 7.3 cars. So with that being said, and what Mr. Murphy said, that you could have quite a few people going next year. They have adequate transportation, because you got to remember, when they go, they got to leave their car. They don't take it with them. They get to take their gun and their personals, but not their car.
Okay, and the vehicles that they would be getting rid of, and I don't know if you have any of this information, what's the year, how many, how old are the vehicles that they want to get rid of, the miles on these cars, the condition of the cars, because generally when we would get rid of squad cars, just like the finance committee did this year when we were looking at buying other vehicles in other departments, we went out and we took a look at them to see exactly what the vehicles looked like. We've done that before with police cars and have cut back. Did you get a chance to look at any of these vehicles that they want to get rid of?
Just from what the chief talked about, that they were going to get rid of the 1-for-1 with their fleet that's in there now, and they were going to get rid of the Crown Vics.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, can I answer the councilman's question?
Sure, Mr. Murphy.
I do have an answer. It's $51,000 per vehicle. I will add that the police department requested initially to the mayor $575,000 for this year's budget, or for 2020's budget. He cut it to $420,000. Obviously, the police are not here to respond to this late 11th hour cut to their budget. But I will say that Chief Swistek has made it very clear that they do need this equipment. He believes it's essential, and he asked for your support on it. Thank you.
I'm going to address that.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any council comments? Councilman Beatry?
Mr. Murphy just alluded to the reason why I have a problem with this amendment. When the Finance Committee met prior to a second reading, where amendments are allowed, the Finance Committee met with the Chief of Police and all the other department heads and came up with their recommendation to us on what should be cut, what should not be cut. And I'm taking that, and I've said it at our last meeting, as gospel. I trust the Finance Department, the Finance Committee to make that decision. The issue with amendments being allowed at third reading is just this. Now we've got an amendment request and no department head here to provide support for that, to say, no, there's a mistake there, this is why you should not vote for this. And I'm opposed to that. I don't think we should be amending this on third reading when we don't have the other side of the story.
Thank you, Mr. Beatry. Councilman Fitzpatrick?
I just wanted to add for clarity, since Councilman Beatry made that point about the department heads not being present. Well, the mayor wasn't present through any of the budget hearings, and this is his proposed budget. So were we not to make any cuts because he wasn't there? Just a question.
Councilman Przybylski?
Well, first of all, we had unanimous consent, Mr. Beatry, at a meeting to make amendments on third reading on the police budget, okay? And also that I was at the budget hearings and I raised eyebrow and issue with all these cars and several questions. And also to Mr. Murphy's suggestion that it's $54,000 for a car. I have the actual handout that the police department handed out, and it's $37,400. So I think I'm pretty accurate on my figures that I gave to the council. And this is off the purchase agreement with the state, and this is what they handed out at the meeting. So if it's not factual, I don't know why they're handing it out.
That was just for the purchase of vehicles, not including the outfitting.
Well, I'm talking about the vehicles. I didn't amend any
Councilman
of them.
Simmons?
Yes, that's just the vehicles, not the equipment. You include the equipment, it's probably 50-some thousand.
Mr. Murphy?
I want to confirm that the $51,000 is an outfitted vehicle ready for use on the street. That point of clarification. Secondly, there are several vehicles that have had accidents. And again, Chief Swistek is pleading with the council to approve the amount that he has requested, as he feels that is the adequate amount for public safety in Michigan City.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any other council comments? Having none?
I want to address what Mr. Murphy said about the line item. On the premise of what Mr. Murphy's saying, that it's $54,000 a car, I did not make an amendment to cut any equipment in the budget. This particular line item talks about one thing. It talks about fleet rotation. It talks about the vehicles themselves, not equipment to go on them. And that is the basis for my amendment. So, also, that the chief at the budget hearing said he wanted 6 cars sitting around in case there's something happens. Well, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money in case. You know, I mean, probably some other departments could use that money. So, if you want to keep funding this, and I can understand that they wanted $500,000, and so it was cut, but it still could be cut some more. Thank you.
Any more council comments? Having none, Ms. Nyland, the vote on the amendment to cut the budget for vehicles for the police department.
Mr. Paul Przybylski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons? Mr. Stemley?
Nay.
Mr. Beatry?
Nay.
Mr. Dabney?
Nay.
Ms. Carnes?
Nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Nay.
We have 2 in favor and 6 opposed. What'd you do with that? Here.
And if there's no opposition, we are going to take a 5-minute recess.
Oh, what's the tell you here, Rich?
All right, we'll bring the meeting back to order. Now we will take the vote on the city budget. Are there, in the sponsors, Mr. Dabney, does the sponsor have anything that he would like to add at this time? We are on the ordinance, resolution for the budget.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on the ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on the ordinance? And there was a formal public hearing was held on this ordinance on October the 1st, 2019. Are there any council comments? What's your question, Councilman?
Did we adjourn the meeting during public comment?
Did not adjourn on October 1st. Adjourned on October 15th.
Okay,
15th.
all right, thank you.
Is there any other further council comments on the budget? Any further council comments on the budget? Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
I need a motion.
Motion to approve. Support.
Now we can do the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our next ordinance on third reading by title only, without objection, please.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance setting salaries and wages for appointed officials and employees of the city of Michigan City, Indiana for the calendar year 2020. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the sponsor have anything he'd like to add at this time?
None at this time.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Public comment is now closed. Is there any council comments?
Motion to approve.
Support. Motion to approve by Councilman Simmons and seconded by Councilman Dabney. Any other council comments? Having none, Ms. Nyla on the vote.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our next ordinance on third reading by title only, without objection, please.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance setting the annual salary for the mayor. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the author have anything you'd like to add at this time?
None at this time.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Public comment is now closed. Any council comments?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion to approve by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilman Simmons. Any other further council comment? Ms. Nyla on the vote.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
And Mr. Stemley.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our next ordinance on third reading by title only, without objection.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance setting the annual salary for the city clerk. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add at this time?
None at this time.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Public comment is now closed. Any further council comments?
Just for the
Councilman
record,
Fitzpatrick?
I'd like to state that the clerk's office does an outstanding job keeping the city in order and running smoothly. And I think that definitely for consideration next year, the clerk should be getting an increase in salary for all the work that they do. Probably need an extra person in there, honestly. That's all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the nice comment, Councilman. Is there any other, is there a second? Was there a motion? Yours was a comment. Yeah. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Motion to approve by Councilman Simmons and seconded by Councilman Dabney. Any further comment? Having none, Ms. Nyla on the vote.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
And Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our next ordinance on third reading by title only without objection, please.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance establishing salaries for the fire department of the city of Michigan City for the calendar year 2020. And this is also introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add?
No comments at this time.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, public comment is now closed. Are there any council comments? Any council comments?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Dabney,
Support.
second by Councilman Simmons. Any further council comment? Having none, Ms. Nyla on the vote.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Prespolinski? Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Sorry. Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
And Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Our next ordinance on third reading by title only without objection.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance establishing salaries for the police department of the city of Michigan City for the calendar year 2020. And Mr. Dabney is also introducing this.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add?
No comments at this time.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance?
Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. We just need some accountability, and we need to understand what due process is. And I think for those patrol officers, they need a lot more money, giving the upper administration way too much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Public comment is now closed. Are there any council comments? Any council comments? Any council comments? Motion to approve by Councilman Dabney.
Support.
And seconded by Councilman Fitzpatrick. Ms. Nyla on the vote.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Prespolinski? Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
And Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nyla. And our final ordinance on third reading this evening by title only without objection.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance setting the annual salaries for the common council members. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does Mr. Dabney have anything he'd like to add at this time?
No comments at this time.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, public comment is now closed. Any council comments? Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Just had one comment. There was someone that made a comment in the newspaper in Anvil Chorus saying that we make enough for the 2 meetings that we attend a month. Well, this job entails a lot more than just attending 2 meetings. This is the smallest aspect of what we do. I mean, every day I'm getting phone calls from members of the public. We always are meeting with department heads or going to committee meetings or doing other city business. So it's a lot more than just coming to 2 meetings a month, just for the record.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other council comments? Motion to approve?
Support.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Simmons, seconded by Councilman Fitzpatrick. Ms. Nyla on the vote?
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Nay.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stemley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
And Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
We have 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nyla. We got that done. We got the budget done. Unfinished business. Under unfinished business, the Common Council has one appointee to the Veterans Commission due to the resignation of Ms. Natalie Stewart, whose term expires December 31st, 2020. And I know that Mrs. Stransky mentioned 2 council meetings ago if we would read about what the Veterans Commission is so that folks that are at home watching may have an idea, and some organizations, veterans organizations, if anyone's watching from there, they'll know what this organization does. So very real quickly, I'm just going to browse over the ordinance. And number 1, it says this commission came into existence October 11, 2018. And it says, whereas the Common Council acknowledges that if a segment of our residents and community are not doing well, this affects the overall well-being of our entire community. And whereas according to United States Census figures from 2016, there are 18.5 million military veterans in the United States. And whereas 9.2 million of those veterans were age 65 and older, 1.6 were younger than 35, 6.7 million served during the war in Vietnam, and 7.1 million served during the Gulf War, and 1.6 served in Korea, and 768,000 served in World War II. Whereas 4 million veterans had a service-connected disability, 11 to 20% of the veterans of Operation Iraq Freedom and Enduring Freedom, 12% of Gulf War veterans and 30% of Vietnam veterans have experienced post-traumatic stress disorder. And whereas in 2016 there were 455,000 veterans in Indiana, 5.6 of them were female, 725 were homeless, and approximately 80% were uninsured. Whereas there's a need in the city to create practical proposals and to find workable solutions for veterans to problems in the areas of employment, education, physical and mental health care, housing, disability, and claims. And it goes on to say, now therefore be it ordained by the Council of Michigan City that a commission for veterans shall be established under section 2.460 in the Michigan City Municipal Code. And the establishment, purpose, and intent. There is hereby established a commission for veterans. The purpose of this commission is to ensure that veterans have equal opportunity to function fully and optimally as citizens of the city, as equal participants in the economy, in politics, government, education, social development, and in the system of justice and all other facets of life. It shall be the aim and goal of the commission to increase awareness and understanding of the struggles, disabilities, housing, and other issues veterans face, and identify available resources and services meeting their needs and gaps that remain in existing services, and advocate for veterans in accessing health care and receiving fair treatment in disability claims, housing, and related issues, and establish and maintain close working relationships with the county Veterans Service Officer, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Disabled American Veterans, American Legion, the Guardian Riders, the Wall Gang, and other local, state, and federal programs and that relate to the needs and opportunities of veterans. And when appropriate, to subject to the approval of the mayor and the Common Council, and to enter into contracts and accept grants
for the administration of research projects that may contribute to the strengthening and refinement of a coordinated program. So that tells a little bit about the commission and what the appointments are. There's 5 members on the commission. 3 of the members shall be appointed by the mayor. 4, and then it has the different years. So anyway, there's 3 members that are appointed by the mayor, and 2 members were appointed by the common council, and 1 shall be for a fixed term of 4 years, and 1 of these appointments shall initially be for 2 years, renewable for 4 years upon reappointment by the common council. And at least 1 of these shall be representative of an organization dealing with veterans issues, including PTSD. So, just to make folks aware in the public, as far as this commission, and we are looking for someone to fill that slot. So if any of us know of anyone, please tell them to go to the clerk's office and fill out the required application to get appointed to a commission. Under new business, FYI, the mayor is requesting the advice and consent of the members of the Michigan City Council regarding his appointment of Mr. Davis Bush as a member of the Michigan City Board of Cemetery Trustees. He will be replacing former member Virginia Nichols and finish her remaining term, expiring on January 1st, 2022. Is you nominating them,
Is there a reason
Councilman?
why we can't just do?
Yeah, if we want to go ahead and make the nominations.
I would move that we approve the appointment.
Support. Is that total consent that we go ahead and we can make a nomination this evening and then vote on it? Okay. With that being said, Councilman Beatry made the motion to nominate Mr. Davis Bush. And who made the second? Councilman Fitzpatrick made the second.
Point of order.
Yes,
This is not our appointment. This is providing advice and consent for the mayor's appointment.
Technically, it's not a nomination. We're just approving the consent for the mayor to make the
Right.
appointment.
Right. Yeah, it's his appointment. You're correct, Councilwoman, but we're just giving him the advice and consent that we're okay with it. Okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any comments from the public? Any public comment? Any public comment? Anyone from the public wish to say anything? Public comment is now closed. Are there any council comment? Any council comment?
I just have one.
Councilman Stimley?
I've been getting a number of calls about the ADA sidewalk replacement program, and I just wanted to put some clarification out there tonight. In 2015 and 2016, the only ADA ramps that were replaced was from Vale Street north to 11th Street. The current ADA project will be replacing from Cool Spring and south to US 20. The prior ramps that are incapacitated, or in compliance or near compliance, will remain. If you have any questions about this, just give me a call and I can put you in the right direction if you have any further questions about the ADA sidewalk replacement program. Thank you.
Any other further council comments? Councilman Prispolinski?
I want to thank the council members that voted in favor of that amendment to delete that money for now to create discussions and some type of oversight for that forensic unit. And also that I went to the Board of Works meeting today so that the council is aware of this. I don't know. They did some paving on Barker Ave and Lafayette Street, and I couldn't believe what I saw when I was down there. They paved over a sidewalk, creating a big pool of water down on Lafayette, down by the Barker Ave corner with Lafayette. But not only that, they paved in such a manner that we lost the curb line on Lafayette North from Barker Ave. And if you go down Barker Ave, the curb line is lost about halfway down the street. So I asked them not to pay the claim for those roads because of this reason. Many years ago, when we passed the Greenway ordinance, that we were told it was unenforceable in certain sections of town because the curb was lower than 2 inches. That's what we were told, and they were not enforcing it, and they were not writing tickets. So now, just to let you know, look around, and if you see a discrepancy, bring it to somebody's attention. And probably the quickest action is the Board of Works. So we'll see what happens. But now, I want to get into the administrative code of the city of Section 2, where it talks about Section 2-402, a rainy day fund. There's hereby established a rainy day fund to receive transfers of unused and unencumbered funds raised by a general or special tax levy or taxable property within the city or from other distributions of excess balances of funds whenever the purpose of such funds have been fulfilled and are unused and encumbered balances remained, or from special distributions from Gadget and Seeded funds, which Gadget is renamed now. But the point I'm making is this. The fund already exists, and it has been existing since it was revised in 2014, but it was been on the books for quite a while, I think since the 90s or the late 90s. So my point in being is, I guess we ought to ask how much money's in that fund, or how much has been supposed to be come back in that fund. All right. So with saying that, I guess we gave some work to Mr. Murphy to give us some answers. Because the reason I was looking through the code, Section 2, which has the rules of engagement for the city council, okay, and when they were amended, and I saw in here some other taxes that were created back in 2014 and 2015, and if this money's not being put in the rainy day fund, which I think Mr. Stemley had referred to and I had referred to before, I think we got some missing funds somewhere, or an explanation why they're not there. So being that said, hopefully we can get an answer by the end of the year from Mr. Murphy.
Councilwoman Carnes?
Also in section 2.402 of the rainy day fund subsection C, it says the city shall determine the amount, if any, of unused and unencumbered funds available to be transferred to the rainy day fund and shall make such transfers with the provisions set forth in IC 36-1-8-5 and 36-1-8-5.1 only upon adoption of an ordinance approving the said transfers.
Oh, okay. I'm not getting into a debate. I'm just asking why it hasn't happened, or if it should have happened. So the point in being is that we need an explanation why it hasn't happened, because I don't know of any extra monies that are in this fund. Thank you.
My guess would be that there was no ordinance written to do that.
That's to transfer the funds. To have the ordinance, they got to come to us to say there's the funds there. I don't know what's in the controller's office, Miss Carnes. So I'm not gonna beleaguer the question. The question is, should it have happened? Why hasn't it happened? It's in the code, so we need some answers. Thank you.
Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, just wanted to continue with the discussion that was at the last meeting about the missing equipment from Central Services. See it as how every time I look to make a comment or look to get to the bottom of this, it seems to be undermined or dismissed as my imagination when people keep coming to me with this. But I'd like to read the entire series of events so it's on the record. So Wednesday, September 25th, 2019 at 9:57 a.m. I sent an email to Superintendent Zonder and David Farmer, who is the maintenance supervisor or something over there. And I copied Mayor Ron Meir, Kaylin Kubik, who's the assistant to Mayor Ron Meir, the entire city council, and the chief of police, Mark Swistek, and the city clerk, Gail Nylo. And the email goes as follows. Good morning. I was just contacted and made aware of multiple items of city equipment that are unaccounted for, specifically but not limited to pole saws, leaf blowers, and a riding lawnmower. It was also brought to my attention that an interrogation of employees is being conducted. My questions are, has everyone been made aware of this? What is the city's inventory control policy and is it being followed? Has Michigan City Police Department been notified if theft is suspected? Thank you in advance, Sean Fitzpatrick, 4th Ward Councilman. Just to add to that, people had been coming forward to me because they knew that they could come to me and with full confidence that I would bring this to light and I would not be silent about this and sweep this under the rug as they made it aware. I mean, they made it clear to me that had happened in the past. So just to let any of them know that's listening, I will keep this issue in the forefront until it's resolved. Second email in response to my email, September 25th, 2019 at 1:01 p.m. and 36 seconds. This was in response to all, reply all. So, Sean, first of all, on first name basis, all of a sudden, I guess. There is no missing riding lawnmower from Central Services. The inventory of equipment is counted at a minimum twice per year. Once at the beginning before the seasonal start, and again at the end when the seasonal employees are done. If items are found to be missing, the inventory is taken. Then inventory is taken. We have had some equipment come up missing recently, and they have all been reported to the police department. And that was from Bob Zonder, Superintendent, Central Services and Maintenance, 1400 West Garfield, Michigan City, Indiana. So after that time, after that email, it seemed to me that this wasn't going to be pursued to my satisfaction. So I took the liberty of getting 60 copies of the whistleblower protection ordinance and taking it over to Central Services and hand delivering it to as many employees as I could contact. So I probably contacted about 30 plus of them and let them know that they're protected, and if they know of some wrongdoing, to feel 100% confident that they could come forward and nothing retaliatory could happen to them. So after that, I was contacted again in a public setting somewhere where I guess they knew I would be, and they delivered to me this entire audit report. Now, at that point, I corresponded again and entered this into the record, which was read at the last meeting. So if anyone wants to hear that, they can go back to the last meeting minutes because it was part of a correspondence that was read into the record. But since I'm here and we have this audit and they're discounting its existence, which there's no way I would have this. I don't work there. I would not just generate a fraudulent copy of some audit report, but that's what they're hinting to. So I have to go to this measure just to get this at least brought to the light. If nothing happens after that, you can't say that I didn't do my due diligence. So equipment, this is from 8/9/12 was when this was generated. Now, this is the most recent audit that was conducted on 9/30 of 2019. These items as follows. The person that gave this to me said anything that didn't have a date next to it corresponding with the September 30th date was missing. So this is chainsaws. Property number 18156. Equipment number C0030. Serial number 1123-021-0800. Brand model is Steel. The next one is another chainsaw 181434 C0038. Serial number 279071691, and the model is MS250. I'm not sure what that is. The next property number is 147. We're still in chainsaws. 14722. Equipment number STQMS170. Serial number 510894513. And the model name is MS-170. The next item is still on chainsaws. Property number 14723. Equipment number STQMS391. Serial number 183005485. Model number is MS-391. And we're still in chainsaws. Property number 18102. Equipment number C0005. Serial number 116-513-2117. Model number MS440. This is another chainsaw. Property number 18091. C0020 is the equipment number. There's no serial number for this one. And the model number is MS460. Okay, now we're to leaf blowers. This is property number 18151. Equipment number B007. Serial number 283638237. And the model number is BR600. Another blower. 18104. Equipment number B008. Serial number 280145986. Model number BR600. So another blower. 18152. Equipment number B00, and there's a slash through this number, so I'm not sure what that was. The serial number is 270131450. Model number B600. Another blower, 18111. Equipment number B004. Serial number 267383076. Model number BR550. Next property number is 18131. We're still in blowers. B010. Serial number 283638232. Model number BR600. Another property number and the blowers also. 18904. No equipment number for that one. Serial number ES2400IE. Model number 522000. It's another blower. 14643 BR700 still. It's equipment number. Or maybe the model number though. Serial number 508903987. Model number STQBR700. And there was another one, just the equipment number without the following corresponding numbers, but it was 16141. Sorry. All right, now we're into weed whips, is what they have it labeled as. Property number 18180. Equipment number W004. Serial number 283253222. Model number FS90. Property number 18131 W008. 289137600. Model number FS90R. Property number 181231. Equipment number W00102891376669. Model number FS90R. Property number 18112. Equipment number W0012. Serial number 261041698. Model number says Pro Series. Okay, so this page is labeled Trimmers. Property number 18123. Equipment number T001. Serial number 4228-0112Z or 27914. Model number HS45. Property number 18135 T007. Serial number 287908 576 H764C is the model number. Property number 18924. Equipment number T009. Serial number T96198 543. Model number is 5S130R. Property number 14649. HS45. Serial number 8095-42537. Model number STQHS45-18. So this page is labeled pole saws. Property number 18121. Equipment number HT75. Serial number 248809748. Model number P004. Property number 18122. Equipment number FS75-85. Serial number 239838704. Model number P005. Property number 18120. Equipment number HT101. Serial number 283761889. Model number P007. Property number 18144. HT131. Serial number 287394821. Model number P008. Property number 18164. Equipment number P0011. Serial number 0303813. Model number MC261. This page is labeled Miscellaneous Sign Shop. So this one is property number 18239. Equipment number PH001. Serial number 150003. Model number back brace number 1. Property number 18240. Equipment number Sign Shop. Serial number 188497. Model number DeWalt Saw. Property number 218241. Equipment number SST01. Serial number 287908578. Model number HS46C. Property number 18145. SSW01 is the equipment number. Serial number is 2-281-31143. Model number FS40. Property number 18242. Equipment number Sign Shop. Serial number GP6500. Model number Generator. Property number 18243. Equipment number SSJH01. There's no serial number for that item. The model number is 288-C3. Property number 18244. Equipment number SSA01. Serial number 1-54-253-636. Model number BT120. Property number 18903. Portable air tank. no other corresponding information other than the model number is ST111107635. Property number 14616, equipment number MIL, and this is a coring drill. So the rest of the items, I wasn't able to distinguish whether they were missing or just inventory items. But this was an audit conducted on September 30th, which I don't know who generated this or who is crying out for help, but someone needs to help them. If Michigan City Police Department is investigating it, why haven't I been contacted? I was the first person to hear about this. I know multiple people who've witnessed these items and know that they're missing. No one's came to me. So if there is an investigation going on, where is it going? So that was my first thing. Second thing is, I'd like to apologize to Councilwoman Carnes. If you took offense to anything I said, that was not my intention. I just want to clear that up for the record. But I did want to also clarify the record, a couple terms that people seem to be running wild with. Bear with me here. If I can find everything. There we go. Okay, so the first term being lame duck. In American politics, a lame duck or outgoing politician is an elected official whose successor has already been elected or will be soon. Simple as that. So I don't know why that was so offensive, other than that. And the second was bobblehead. So bobblehead mentality is what I said. I did not call her a bobblehead. I said the bobblehead mentality. And I was speaking in general, and if anyone thinks that shoe fits them, then wear it. But it's the go along and get along mentality that gets nothing done. If that's, someone up here on this council, someone out in corporate America where they feel that the only way that they can succeed is to say yes to everything, then that's what I meant by bobblehead. I'm not one of those people, and it's obvious that that's not the way I carry myself. Lastly, as a father of 3 young women and grandfather of a beautiful little girl, it seems as if people are under the impression that I had a problem with Councilwoman Carnes as a woman, when that is completely and utterly untrue. Make no mistake that as a person of color, being treated equal is something I desire as well, and have faced increased scrutiny for any action I take. And for this to be taken out of context and twisted as anti-woman is a total mischaracterization. Thank you.
Councilwoman Carnes?
I think any name calling is not compatible with the seriousness of this office, and that we should be able to conduct ourselves like adults, and I strive to do that. I do make my decisions based on the information that I have and my analysis of it. And I do object to being called a bobblehead. And like I said, I think we're all better than that, and I would hope that the council would adhere to those thoughts.
I have 2 comments, and one, I will make a retraction that I made at 2 council meetings ago, and I got a few phone calls from some county council members for misinterpretation of their benefits package. When we were talking about council benefits and our budget, I had mentioned that the county council makes $24,000 a year. They don't make $24,000 a year. They make $19,000 a year. Their benefit package, if they want benefits, they can get benefits. And also they get a pension, not after 2 terms, but after 10 years. So if they're on the county council for 10 years, they automatically get I don't know if it's a county pension or a state pension, but they get a pension. So I just wanted to clarify that for my buddies that are on the county council. And I just want to comment about the report that Councilman Fitzpatrick just gave. If it's true, if it lends true to this equipment is missing, and I haven't heard a report back from Superintendent Zonder one way or the other. I did request from the mayor that Mr. Zonder come to a council meeting to answer some of these questions, but I never heard back from that, and so I was waiting for some type of written report, possibly either from him or from the police station, saying that these thefts, if they are thefts, are not true. But just looking at what you read, and you're talking about leaf blowers, chainsaws, weed whips, trimmers, pole saws, and from the brand they are, they're probably all steel brands. You're talking anywhere between $500, $800 per item. We're talking thousands of dollars of money here. And the council just got done going through budget hearings, and every year we get requests for more tools. We need more tools. Well, what do you do with your tools? Well, apparently, just from the report that I got from the councilman, and nothing from Mr. Zonder yet, it seems to me like they're either being stolen or they're being lost. They're not being taken care of. And certainly to do a tools inventory audit every 6 months does not make sense. I mean, you would do a tools inventory audit maybe weekly, bi-monthly, or monthly, but to wait 6 months between the start of the season and the end of the season, where all this equipment's at, that's not the way you run a business. You should be accountable every day. Where's your equipment at? Where's the saws? Where's the blowers? Where's the chainsaws? And there's got to be some kind of tool room attendant or a tool room where they keep this equipment at, so they know exactly what they got and what they don't have. Just to say it's sitting on the back of a pickup truck and it's going to sit there all season, that makes no sense whatsoever. So I hope that either the mayor, as Mr. Zonder, come to a council meeting and explain that either what Councilman Fitzpatrick has is false and he has the true information, or that the police department, with the ensuing of their investigation down there, which I heard that they were investigating or waiting for a request to investigate, that whatever they come up with, that they come back and report to the city council. Somebody has to let the city council know what's going on there, whether it's true or whether it's false, because we just got done allocating, another $10,000 in the budget hearings for tools. I mean, and just to say, hey, forget it, we lost a chainsaw, $500, $600 chainsaw, I don't find that acceptable, and that's not the way to manage a city department. With that being said, are there any other council comments? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll move. Second.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilman Paul Przybylski. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned.